Welcome to the next episode of Voices of New York. New York is a city with a long and very rich history. It was first inhabited by different tribes of Native Americans, until early 16th century when the Europeans came. Throughout the years of colonization, the city had different names, such as New Angoulême or New Amsterdam, but it was in 1664 when English colonists renamed the city to New York, after English Duke of York and Albany. And what happened next? Let's find out. Between 1880 and 1919, more than 23 million people emigrated to the United States. About 17 million of those immigrants entered through New York City, where the first immigration station was opened in 1892 on Ellis Island.
Now, Ellis Island was basically the entry point for 20th century immigrants coming to the United States. And really the first thing that they saw when they came to the shores of America was the Statue of Liberty.
What do you know about the history of the Statue of Liberty?
The Statue of Liberty, which is located in downtown Manhattan, was given to New York by the state of France in 1886 as a sign of friendship between the two peoples.
How has it changed?
Well, when the statue was first given to New York by France, it was a giant golden bronze color. And now, when you cross the bridge or when you're driving and you see the Statue of Liberty, it's this very green color.
Can you describe the Statue of Liberty?
Statue of Liberty is kind of like this lady with a, I don't have the crown of horns on my head, but she's holding a tablet and she's holding a torch.
How important is it right now?
Well, the Statue of Liberty is, like one of the most iconic tourist destinations in New York City. It's this big green woman holding a torch. So, when you think New York, you can't help but think Statue of Liberty. She is sort of a fixture of New York.
Large numbers of immigrants who were coming to the United States were not the only landmark of the beginning of 20th century. October 29, 1929, also called Black Tuesday, was the symbolic beginning of Great Depression, severe worldwide economic crisis. It started with the Wall Street crash, the most devastating stock market crash in the United States.
So during the 1920s, a lot of people in America, they put a lot of their money into investments on Wall Street, into the stock market. And at the end of the 1920s, for a bunch of reasons, because there was too many products being made in factories, because too many people were putting money that they didn't have into it, the entire market collapsed. And as a result, a lot of people lost all their money. 1 in 4 Americans had no jobs at all, and it led to the worst period economically in the country's history.
Where does the name Wall Street come from?
So back when New York was called New Amsterdam and it was controlled by Dutch colonists, the end of Manhattan Island, they built a big wall to keep the water from where people lived. And the wall that they built there is why it's still called Wall Street to this day. So that's where they got the name from.
What is Wall Street known for?
It's mainly been after the wall, when it kept the water out. Since then, it's become famous as a center of commerce. And the name Wall Street really conjures up ideas of big American business, of the banking sector.
After 12 years of Great Depression, the late 1940s and 1950s brought economic growth to New York City. In April 1973, the World Trade Center complex was opened just a few blocks from Wall Street. During the 1990s, approximately 500 companies had offices there, including many financial companies tied to Wall Street.
The World Trade Center was the biggest building in New York City. I actually went to the top of it one time. It was like 110 stories. When you look down at the street, like the taxi cabs were just like tiny little dots. And so it was a very famous landmark in New York City.
What happened to these buildings?
On 9/11, 2001, 2 planes that were hijacked by terrorists hit the World Trade Center building downtown in the financial district here in Manhattan, and the buildings collapsed and over 3,000 people died.
What happened in New York after the attacks?
The first week after, people were stunned, people were really shocked. You know, that day, I know I had several family members who were traveling that day. All the planes got shut down all over the country. And, you know, they suspended sports games. They suspended shows here in New York City and stuff. And it was all people talked about.
What is going on there right now?
Now, 10 years later, they are finally rebuilding. They're building a new building on the site. I believe it's called the Freedom Tower. And for a long time, you know, after the buildings were demolished, there was nothing there. It was a huge open space in the middle of downtown with all these big skyscrapers. And for the first time, they're rebuilding it.
New York City has changed a lot over almost 500 years of its history. The city witnessed multiple battles of American Revolutionary War, as well as the economic and building boom following Great Depression and World War II. The city has served as main port of entry for many immigrants, and its cultural and economic influences have made it one of the most important urban areas in the United States and the world. See you in the next episode of Voices of New York.